Hello and thank you so much for joining me for some Saturday Night Crafting. My name is Sasha Reed. If you've not joined me before, then welcome. It's lovely to have you on my channel. I wanted to do a quick little side note for all of you that tend to watch me regularly. I'm off to Canada to go and see my mum. If you don't know already, I live in the UK with my husband and 2 children, 3 cats. And I'm going to head home to see my mum in Alberta in Canada for 2 weeks. So you won't see me, unfortunately. I had hoped to get some videos pre-recorded and then you could just kind of craft along with me while I'm on holiday. But unfortunately it didn't happen. So I will see you back in 2 weeks. I've got my video ready to go. It is scheduled. So you will see me in 2 weeks, which is great. But tonight's crafting is a nice, quick and easy one that hopefully will give you lots of inspiration. It's got lots of color to it. You can use whatever colors you feel like, and we should all be able to do this one. Now I'm using some distressed inks. I've also got a sample of what it looks like with distressed oxides at the end, but any watercolors or any water reactive product will work. We are doing some simple, fun watercoloring, and it is such a nice, relaxing one to do that you can do when you are stressed and trying to maybe pack like me and trying to get everything done. It has been a manic week. So this crafting is all about relaxing, stripping it right back, and doing some more sort of mindfulness kind of crafting rather than intricate and stressful or new and complicated. So as you can see on the screen, I'm doing some watercolor blobbies. So I've got one jar that is for washing my brush and one jar that is for clean water. So what I'm doing first, and what I found worked best, because I did try it both ways, is to put down blobs of water, like really quite depthy looking blobs of water. If you looked at it from an angle, you could kind of see that dome effect. And then I am simply tapping, I'm picking up some color with my brush and then kind of tapping my brush on top of that blobby of water. And the difference between that versus just using the color straight onto the cardstock is quite significant. So here you can see my little sample, my trial run. You can see the difference in the pigment, the difference in the sort of depth of color. You can almost still see that movement of color when you've put the water down first and then added the color into it. So here it is a little bit closer up for you. You can see it. You can see there's that dome effect on some of those little dots. And that's what I'm going for here, is just lots and lots and lots of water. And then I do allow it to dry overnight to soak into that cardstock and not warp the card too much. I can dry it with a heat tool, but it does take quite a long time to dry with a heat tool because I've put so much water down. So it's a great craft to do where you can kind of leave it overnight to dry and come back and like make your projects the next day. So I did about 3 of these sheets, just sat there watching TV and trying to de-stress a little bit in and amongst all the packing and paperwork and craziness of everything. My kids are also going away this week. So my son's got his first ever residential with school and my daughter's got her first ever weekend away with guides. So I've got to make sure that they're all packed and ready to rock and roll for that before I go as well. Not because my husband can't do it, but I think I'm a little bit controlling and I need it done and I need to make sure that it's done right because I can't nip home and sort it out when I'm in Canada. So it's been extra effort this week, but never mind. So on the right is where I've done some kind of smaller blobs, and on the left I went for some bigger ones, and you can just really see all that color movement in those blobs. And I love it. I love that kind of random look to it. Like this would make a beautiful sort of wrapping paper as well. Like if you had a big sheet of that kind of brown paper that you get with like your Amazon deliveries, you could easily do something like this all over the back of that and then use it as some gorgeous wrapping paper, and it's just a nice little watercolor effect. Now I went through all my stash. I've got retired stamps, I've got current stamps, I've got all kinds of stamps, and I went through all of them to find sort of the smaller shaped stamps. So this is a great way to use up those little stamps as well that you've got maybe floating around. The ones that come with magazines are usually quite annoying to figure out what to do with, and this is fantastic for that. So all I'm doing here is peeling off some of the ones that I really like the look of, and I am going to stamp them down onto my little watercolor blobs, and I am going for roughly the same kind of size and stamping down the images that fit within those little blobs. And so it's just a nice way to use up those stamps and create a fun, beautiful background with lots of texture, lots of color, lots of elements to it. So here it is all finished. I've stamped every one of those blobs. You could leave some of them blank if you wanted. You could go for maybe some flecks of color as well, like some more spots or drops of color. Here's the bigger one that I did with some bigger stamps. and fill that out. And then this one here is what it looks like if you have oxides. So as I said, any water reactive pigment or ink works. If you've got watercolors itself, they work as well. But I often get asked when I do something with distress inks, would it work with oxides? And this is what it looks like if you were to use oxides. I quite like the color dimension in the oxides. I like how they kind of almost split a bit more. You get more different tones in those little blobs. But it's whatever you've got to hand, whatever ink pads you've got, use those, and I'm sure you'll be really thrilled with the results. Now I'm going to trim down my panels to fit onto the front of a card and have a little bit of a backing behind them. And that way it gets rid of that kind of edge of my card as well and kind of makes it look a bit more flowy. For this one, I inked up the edge in pink. So I put a piece of scrap paper in between the card, in the middle of the card, so I didn't ink up the inside of the card, and then I inked around the whole edge and then stuck my little panel on top. And then I've got these sentiments here, which are from Pink Fresh Studios. And I'm just going to color it to match the rest of the card. So I'm using the exact same ink that I use for the edge of the card. And I'm going to come in and just ink up that whole entire sentiment and then pop that on the front. And then that way it all kind of coordinates nicey nice, which is really good because these sentiments are very white and my watercolor cardstock that I used is more like an off-white. And I didn't mention that at the beginning, so I apologize. I am using watercolor card for my projects today. Now I went through my stash and found these little flat back sticky, they're not gems, they're like little sticky drops, and I thought they were perfect with my sort of watercolor drops as well. So I went ahead and used those on a few of my cards, but I've got 3 finished at the moment and I still have a whole panel left to use up for some more cards. But here are 3 different ideas of what you could do to kind of apply those little backgrounds to your card fronts and make them into finished projects. I hope you enjoyed today, and I hope you have a fabulous next 2 weeks. I look forward to seeing you when I get back. Yeah, I'll share with you some pictures. If I see any bears when I go to the mountains, I will definitely share them with you. Take care. Have a fabulous 2 weeks. Bye.